Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby, where we hope to be informative and entertaining and help you keep your modeling mojo alive. Listeners, welcome back to Mojovia. Dave and I hope your modeling life has been full of bench time and scale modeling goodness since our last episode. We have a ton of listener mail and feedback to get through, along with our special segment and some heartfelt shout-outs once we get to the other side. So let's get this kid out of the box and on the way with episode 23 of Plastic Model Mojo. Well, Dave, we're back for more. How you doing?
I'm not doing too bad. It's raining hard outside, but I'm nice and dry in my model room and doing okay. How about yourself?
Not too bad. What you been up to other than your bench stuff and your general scale model sphere?
Well, obviously it's starting to turn fall, so I'm spending a lot of time, getting stuff outside, picking up leaves and stuff like that. I'm noticing that model release announcements and new tools and all that sort of stuff are starting to fall thicker now, and I'll tell you what, I think that's gonna put a pinch on the wallet sooner or later. How about you?
Well, we discussed the Shelves of Doom last time, and we talked a little bit about my KV85 project, that forlorn project, as a possible Shelf of Doom recovery for myself, and I started poking around, and I discovered that Tiger Model Designs, who made that T-34 kit I bought that I talked about last time, is offering a corrected turret for the trumpeter kit. And they credit their master makers on there. And the master for that kit was Mike Bishop.
Oh, really?
Does that ring a bell?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I've friended him real quick on Facebook because I mean, how many Mike Bishops are into Soviet armor out there? Right? Probably not a whole lot. But anyway, he friended me back. We had a conversation. Like I said, Mike Bishop had mastered that turret for Tiger Model Designs, and Mike was the proprietor of MB Models back in the mid '80s until I don't know, late '90s or something like that.
Yeah,
and he was kind of a resin kit and conversion pioneer, really.
Yeah,
he was one of the at least in the United States, he was one of the first ones to get out there, and I had a lot of his stuff, and I've built a fair amount of it. And I don't know, we just had a chat, and I guess one thing he was enjoying was how just about everything he did 25 years ago is now available in plastic.
Yeah,
almost all of it.
Yep, we live in the golden age of modeling, my friend.
Yeah, we sure do.
Yeah,
so that's what I've been up to. That's something noteworthy. That's not a modeling project.
Yeah. Well, I do hope that we'll hear more on the KV85 later. But for right now, what's your modeling fluid?
I picked up another bottle of Basil Hayden's at the local proprietor.
Good choice.
Back last weekend, I showed it. That's what I was drinking during our Facebook flurry there for the weekend.
Sure.
It's from Frankfort, Claremont, Kentucky. 80 proof, so it's kind of tame. Some people think it's watery, but I think it's quite nice, actually. So I'm enjoying it.
So now, are you crediting the Basil Hayden with your sudden flurry of the move toward the finish on the Beauforts?
No, I can't say that, but it's certainly helped it along, I guess. But I can't credit it for it. I've just been persistent and really enjoying the work I've been doing. So we'll get into that later. What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking.
Not yet.
Well, I am now. The Reverend. It's a Belgian-style quadruple ale out of Avery Brewing Company in Boulder, Colorado. That's not bad. Not bad. It's got... trying to figure out what that flavor is.
Probably says it on the can.
It probably does, and that's where I was going to cheat and look. Malted barley. That's what it is. Malted barley and dark Belgian candy sugar. So as you can imagine, it tastes smoky and it tastes sweet. And it's really good. I like this. First couple of sips have left a good impression. Now, being a Belgian-style quadruple, it's dark. and it's also about 10% alcohol by volume, so a little stronger than your average beer, but not unpleasantly alcoholic at all.
Well, I may have to give that one a shot.
Yep. I'll report back later in the episode.
All right. Well, man, the mailbag is splitting at the seams.
Good. Good to hear.
First up is Alex Restrepo from Louisville, Kentucky. We know who you are.
That's right.
Hey, Dave and Mike. I like how I gave you top billing there.
Yes, I do too. I have to send him a check.
I recently had the pleasure of assisting one of our club members donate an amazing UPS, United Parcel Service, Boeing 747-8 diorama for display at the maintenance facility here in Louisville. It got me wondering about what other modelers do with their models when the needs arise to make room for new displays. As always, thanks for a great cast and keep on modeling. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I know in my youth, they used to fall to BB guns and firecrackers.
Yeah. Lighter fluid also.
Yes. Bullet holes from candles and unfolded paper clips.
Okay, now I've never known that trick. You mean heating it up and poking them through? Gotcha.
Yes, there you go. So I don't know. I've maybe that's the only blessing of my slow build pace is I've never had a glut of models. Now I've had a couple get damaged. I end up salvaging a few things that might be useful later and just bending the thing. But
Right.
I don't know. Might be one for the listeners to answer. What do you guys do out there in the model space for when you get too many models? What do you do, Dave? Do you get too many models?
While my pace may not be quite as glacial as yours, I'm a fairly slow builder. I have plenty of room, so I have not, when I fill up a case, I go up to IKEA in Cincinnati and I buy another case. I just, occasionally I've given one away. I have occasionally sent them off for displays and they eventually return to me. In fact, the Oka that I finished at the beginning of the year is going to go out to Seattle for a display at a museum out there. And so I'm going to ship it out to Jim Bates and then it'll eventually return, I hope, hopefully in the same condition. But I haven't really encountered the problem, although I have, because I've moved a couple of times over the years. I have had some destroyed and broken, and you either salvage them or just bin them. And I did when I moved here 2 years ago from my previous house. I took a number of kits that were sitting in Tupperware in a damaged condition and just simply binned them because I realized I wasn't ever going to go back and fix them. So, but yeah, no, I'd like to hear what the members or what the listeners do with their models other than just simply put them in a display case.
Because somebody out there is running out of space.
Absolutely.
Just not us yet. We don't know, Alex, but we'll find out. So stay tuned. We're hearing from Hector Colon again out of Chicago. Butch O'Hare has a new website, www.butchoharemodelclub.com. I had a look at it. It's pretty nice. And he's also provided a nice link page for all the podcasts. So I know we appreciate it. And I'm sure everybody else out there podcasting for the scale modeling or scale modelers out there appreciate it as well. So we appreciate the links. So if you want to check out what's happening at IPMS Butch O'Hare, go to their website and check it out. It looks nice.
That's fantastic.
All right. Who else we got? Ed Olszewski from Syracuse, New York has a couple of questions. Do modelers use reference books they buy when building models, or do they mostly, I know what you're laughing about, or do they mostly rely on internet search and sites like Prime Portal and the walkarounds available on ScaleMates? Buying reference books for each model could get pricey. So that's the first one. Question 2, I've heard the term paper panzer a number of times recently. Is this a term for a model of a World War II German tank that was designed but never built, or is it a reference to a paper model? I've seen both.
Answer the second question first. It's easier.
Yes. A paper panzer generally refers to a German prototype that was either never built or maybe only went to a wooden mock-up or something like that. But that's typically what that refers to. Though there are a lot of paper models out there, but that's a whole nother ball of wax. Guess you have to find a paper model podcast.
I'm sure there will be one eventually.
Well, back to his first question. I'll let you go first because you laughed.
Yes, I did. Now, keep in mind, I've been in modeling 40 years or so. Back way back in the before times when it was just us and dinosaurs roaming the earth and frog kits, you didn't have the internet. So reference material was vitally important. Books and references were vitally important. So you bought a lot of them. In fact, my lovely better half, the model wife, has on a number of occasions accused me of not being a modeler, but a librarian who occasionally builds a model because I've got a ton of reference. But it's interesting that he brings this up because on the M30 build that I've been building, I've complained numerous times about the trumpeter instructions on the kit. And I would not, and of course, because it's an M30 artillery piece, it's not anything I've got any reference on. But I would not have been able to successfully place all the parts and figure out what Trumpeter was trying to tell me were it not for the links to walkarounds on Prime Portal. There are a couple of really good walkarounds for this kit. And when I get to a stage in the instructions that I couldn't figure something out, I would hop on there and go find the relevant piece in real life and figure out, oh, that's what they're trying to tell me to do on the kit. And boy, is that great. Because the one downside of reference books is you can't zoom in on the photo. You can't rotate the photo. There's always, the photo always is missing that one detail that you're trying to figure out. And out on the internet, because the storage capacity is endless, you're much more likely to find that exact reference shot and that exact look. So, not to sound too much like an old man and get off my lawn and stuff, but modelers today don't realize, I don't think a lot of them who've never grown up without the internet realize how lucky they are in regard to research and reference. It again, I say we live in the golden age of modeling, and that is not just referring to all of the great kits and the fantastic molding technology. It's also referring to all of the information that's available to us. How about you?
Well, I agree with that, and the fact that he may be coming from a post dawn of the internet kind of mindset. That's certainly true. I'm looking. I mean, right across my microphone is my bookcase, and
there's only one.
There's only one, but it's groaning, man. It's really groaning hard. I need a new one. There's a lot of books there from a prior episode. It's not taken up by a lot of magazines because I don't keep a lot of magazines anymore. But I guess what I would add to that is, yes, folks still do use reference books, and it could get expensive, but I typically don't buy when I pick a project, right? I buy reference books that I think are going to be useful down the road, or I find something interesting in them. And I end up with a lot, but you kind of learn what's worthwhile and what's not. I've got a lot of books. I probably have every book on the Panther in print, I think, German Panther tank. And I pick up a lot of obscure things that come from other countries. I have a lot of books that originate in Russia or Poland, for example. But certainly it can get expensive, but I just like books. I like being able to just grab it off the shelf and have at it anytime I want. And you can do that with the net too, but I just like books. Yeah. And I think they'll always have a place.
I agree completely. My wife is not wrong when she accuses me of being a librarian who occasionally builds models. I love reference books. And looking on the internet is great to see details or to do research or so. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing it. But there is something about sitting down with a book, a reference book, and leafing through it that it's an experience that the internet doesn't replicate. Again, maybe that's just being an old guy. Maybe that's just, I came up with books. But now that raises an interesting question. I think you and I are the opposite in regard to books. I will get interested in a subject and then go buy books. And it sounds like you're more, I'm going to buy books, and then they lead me to my interest in the subject. Is that right?
Well, I have interest in the subject already, but
Right.
I can see myself gathering all this stuff up front, or it's a subject I like. I'll get a book, thinking I might want to build it. So yeah, a little bit of both. But one thing I'll add is kind of it's kind of the paradox of this. I've got a project I'm planning for a BM-13 Katyusha rocket launcher system on a ZIS-6 truck, the Russian 3-axle truck. I've started collecting reference for this project. It's out there a little ways. I might start it next year. Probably will, actually. But anyway, there's a publisher that make this small format book, and they had one on the BM-13M Katyusha on this truck on the platform I wanted to model. And I get the book, and it is a rusted out, repaired, pieced together museum piece, outdoor display somewhere in Russia, really of limited use. By contrast to that, there's an equivalent vehicle in the Leningrad Artillery Museum that is almost an entirely original preserved piece. So in that case, Prime Portal wins over the book, hands down. So I think there's room for both.
Absolutely.
Moving on after we beat that one to death, I think. Chad Alexander. Chad is from Wichita, Kansas, and he's been a registered nurse for about 15 years and just started modeling again. Now, this is a reoccurring theme since about February for reasons we all know. Nursing school kind of ruined all his modeling activities, but COVID, our good friend COVID, made it to where he had to find something to do, and he forgot how much he loved the hobby. Thanks again for the podcast. I listen every time I'm in the car. But the crux of his listener mail is, P.S. Thank you for the UMM USA reference. A drug habit would have been cheaper.
Yeah, but a UMM USA habit isn't going to cost you your nursing license.
You won't feel like crap the next morning either.
Yeah, absolutely. And that subject's going to come up again later. So let me tell you, just put a pin in that.
The drug habit or UMM?
Tools.
Will Fusco. Will is an American expat living near Osaka, Japan. We've conversed a little bit online, but he got a question in to me. So first, he was looking for an online community because everybody's been trying to do that, and it's being in Japan has been kind of tough for him. So we put him onto a few Facebook and some other ideas. I thought maybe some of the English speaking countries in his hemisphere, New Zealand and Australia primarily, might offer him something he could do real time from his geography, being in Japan, as opposed to, somebody back home in the United States or even the UK is going to be a pretty big time difference for him. And that's not going to work out as well. Might work out. I don't know. But he was wondering if there's any like Panzertrack type magazines for Soviet armor. He's got something in common with me. He's a Soviet armor fan, and Panzertracks was, I guess they're still available. Somebody's publishing them still. Was a series of books authored by the late Tom Yentz, and were illustrated, the drawings by Hilary Doyle. So anybody familiar with armor ought to know those names. There's nothing like that exactly for Soviet armor, but I got a couple of recommendations. There's a Russian periodical. I don't even know if they're still in print, but they're available on and off again online, eBay and some other places, called Military Chronicle. And the Military Chronicle series, they have a lot of titles that are single subject, like T-40 light tanks or Su-85 or Su-122 or late or early. I've got one that's early versions of the T-34-85. So that's something that'll help you out. Now they're Russian language with English captions. If you make the point to make sure you look for that, because they're all Russian editions as well. But drawing, sketches, and photos kind of have no language barrier, so those are always worthwhile, even if you can't read the text a lot of times. And also out of Germany, there's a publisher called Tankograd. Yeah. And they've got a lot of single subject books as well. A lot of paperbacks. There's like a 2-volume on the KV-1 and then a single volume on KV-2. If you like post-war, there's a T-62 book, a P-76 book, And they just released a hardbound book on the T-34 model 1940, singularly that version only. He draws a lot on wartime German snapshots, which is you're going to see a lot of photographs you've never seen before in those books. So highly recommend those, and they're fairly affordable. So check those out, Will. And then Jesse Escobedo out of Rockville, Maryland. Don't go back to Rockville, Scott Gentry. He'll get that reference. Another UMM plug, actually. Well, not a plug, but he was looking around on there, and UMM actually offers a fender bender type PE tool that I didn't realize they sold.
Yeah, I think I knew that. I think I was aware of it, but it didn't pop up in my memory until you mentioned it.
Now, I looked at it when he brought it up, and it's a little shorter than the fender bender, which may make like forming the lip on like a Panzer III fender not possible on that tool, but it's worth looking up. And when I say a fender bender tool, it's made like a machine shop bending brake as opposed to the clamp and bend with the blade type photo etch tools.
Right.
So worth checking out. UMM's worth checking out anyway.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to keep going here. We got a lot of feedback from our Kentucky Dave in the Shelf of Doom episode. So
my shame knows no bounds.
Well, somebody mentioned maybe we should have titled it that. Well, Ian McCauley, our good friend up in Ottawa, has sent some information along this lines, and he's kind of got 4 categories for the Shelf of Doom. The first one being kits I hated or unsuitable to give away.
Yeah.
These are kits he fought tooth and nail and just seriously messed up on, and they get binned the night before the garbage runs, so they're gone. So
yeah.
He never has a chance to retrieve them out of the garbage can. Category 2, kits that I should have never started.
Yeah.
Now, this one will resonate with you because they were subjects he was not passionate about. They were kits that he started as part of group builds and never finished them. Older kits superseded by far superior kits.
God, yes.
Et cetera, et cetera. So he gave up these lock, stock, and barrel, gave these kits away. Some of them are getting finished, but he's not doing it.
I feel your pain. That so describes my experience. It's not funny.
Then he's got kits he doesn't know what happened. He just lost his mojo, but wants to finish them someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
So he's not parting with these. He will resume work at some point, just packs them up in the box and puts them away, and they sit a while. And finally, kits that simply re-examining them after a period of time rekindled the mojo. So these are kits he shelved for a little while and then just broke it out, took a look at it and said, I think I'll finish that. Now, he credits us to a Shelf of Doom recovery. He had a Trumpeter KV2 project he had shelved, and now it's on near the finish line. So,
all right. Armor and Russian. All right. We got to take credit.
We're influencers, man. We're going somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Tim Cavalier, he doesn't have a Shelf of Doom. He has an aisle of incomplete models.
Is that like the Island of Misfit Toys, only different?
That's exactly what I was thinking, to reference the old Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cartoon.
Yeah, you folks in Australia probably don't get that reference.
They might. I don't know. American TV, unfortunately, gets piped everywhere.
You know what? You'll have to go on YouTube. You'll have to find that clip, because I guarantee you it's on YouTube, and you'll have to stick it in the show notes.
Tim says, have a goal, have a plan, or make a plan and be accountable. I get this is like some of the motivational stuff at work. Actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Have a goal, make it simple, specific, and doable. I want to complete 3 models off the Shelf of Doom in a month. That's bold.
God, yeah.
Don't be vague or unrealistic. I would argue that's unrealistic, but maybe not for Tim.
Yeah, for you and me.
Make a plan. Out of those 3, pick just one and write up what you need to do in simple bite-sized steps. So, that makes sense. And they give you a roadmap to follow to get it done, and be accountable. Show Mike or another model your plan. So he's pointing this at you, Dave.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Mike, it's actually kind of funny that you remember the list you and I used to exchange of models we want to build in the upcoming year. We may revisit that back in January.
I think that would be an awesome thing to do for our New Year's episode.
I absolutely do as well. But that is the thing. We used to exchange these lists with each other, and then we would get the other person's input on it. And it did kind of not hold you accountable, but was somewhat inspirational, and you got some good feedback when we did that. So I don't think that's completely a bad plan. The other thing he mentioned about bite-sized pieces, I do think some of the most successful modelers I know approach models not as models, or not as a model, but a series of models. That each particular model, they approach each subsection as a kit unto itself, and I think that works for a lot of people.
You've been listening to John Bias?
No, I've heard the PPP episode, but I have not gone and listened to that yet.
All right, he's got a video out there on YouTube that's essentially, how to get your mojo back, and he talks about approaching complex models as a series of smaller models and just building the cockpit, just building the running gear, etc. So it's exactly what you just said. Yeah. So that's kind of why I asked.
Okay.
Finally, Stephen Lee from Washington, D.C. Regarding reasons to put Kit on the shelf of doom, my number one reason is this project has become or will be too much work. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, you bite off more than you can chew. Yeah, that's happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then he also mentions that research and reference paralysis is unrelatable to him, which is interesting. God, he doesn't build that way, but man, that will bring me to a screeching halt.
See the KV-85, right?
Exactly. See the KV-85, and then the kits I was waiting on, they should have had research paralysis, but they chose to forge ahead. Well, that is the listener mail for the last 2 weeks. That's a lot. Thanks, everybody.
That's good. And like I said, all joking aside, one of the big reasons Mike and I started doing this is the fact that to help us with our own modeling mojo. And I've got to tell you guys that all of your input and all of the interaction on the Facebook page, etc., really does help. I mean, it's especially in the time of COVID when we're not going to regular club meetings and stuff like that. This is like having another club family, and it's really been helpful. If you enjoy the podcast, we would appreciate it if you'd at the end of this episode go to whatever podcasting app you're using, and put in a 5-star rating to help the algorithm drive the visibility of our podcast up. We've been getting more and more listeners each time, and we really appreciate that. And tell a friend. If you listen to us and you enjoy it, tell one of your modeling buddies, particularly one that's not into listening to podcasts yet. Turn them on to it, help them download a podcasting app on their phone and subscribe to our podcast, and get them turned on to us, because there's nothing like a personal recommendation.
And if you need more podcasts, if we're not putting it out quick enough for you guys, please tune into our fellow podcast and our pioneer podcast, because we certainly weren't the first. But Scale Model Podcast out of Canada is up to episode 54. We finally get to part 2 from Katie, the movie industry model builder, and that's really interesting what she's got to say. Plastic Posse Podcast rolls in at episode 5, and I just mentioned it already, but I'll mention it again. They have a great conversation with John Bias. I encourage you to listen to their episode and then follow their links on to John Bias's Facebook page, not his Facebook page, his YouTube channel, and check out what's John, not just the builds. I would recommend you go to his deep dive videos and listen to John Bias, the motivational speaker. Really, really good stuff. And then finally, On the Bench is up to episode 95, and they got Will Pattison back again for part 2 on tools. Give the Aussies a listen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And after you've done that, if you're not a member of your national IPMS chapter, be it IPMS USA, IPMS Canada, or whatever country you're in listening to us, please consider joining. IPMS is a great organization, and the national chapters really do a whole lot, and a whole lot that you don't realize, to keep the local modeling chapters alive and insured in the case of IPMS USA, and keep them from stepping on each other's contest dates. It's a great organization. The membership fee is not very expensive. Throw them a little bit of money. You get a great magazine, you'll really enjoy it. So please go and join your local IPM, your national IPMS chapter.
Well, to do a little other cleanup here, we encourage you to check out WriteCon. WriteCon is a virtual contest being put on by the Dayton IPMS chapter. It's a virtual event in lieu of the IPMS Region 4 convention, which is the same region Military Modelers Club of Louisville's in, and would have been highly attended, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Check those guys out at www.writecon.com, and it's Wright, WRIGHT, like Wright Brothers. Give that a look and think about participating. It's being organized like a regular IPMS contest, so we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
And then finally, before the end of the month, please cast your votes for the Golden Sprue Awards. You have until the end of October to do that. Warren Sterrett would greatly appreciate as much participation as he can get. And then finally, I want to make our listeners aware of a PayPal link we have on the Plastic Model Mojo website. We had intended to make reference to that a little later, maybe even first of the year, but a couple of our regular listeners have found it and asked about it. There's a PayPal link in the upper right corner. It's a little heart. If you like our podcast and you want to help us along a little bit financially, we'd appreciate it. We're certainly not in it for the money, but there are expenses incurred to do this for you guys, and we're having fun, but it's still an expense. If you're inclined to donate to the show, you can find that link at the Plastic Model Mojo website, or even if you open up an episode from the website player, the show notes defaults to that link. We'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks to those who've already found it and have already gave us a donation. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, it's not hugely expensive to do what we're doing. There are expenses, and we're trying to get better as we go along. We're hoping once model contests resume that we'll actually be able to do some remote work, and that required some equipment. So we appreciate anybody throwing a few spare bucks our way. That was very nice of the people who've done so.
It's time for Countdown to Vegas, Dave.
Having had no national this year, I cannot tell you how anxious I am for Vegas.
Well, you're going to have to hold your water, because at the time of this recording, the 2021 IPMS National Convention is 303 days away. Ugh. So everybody get building. It's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah.
And hopefully this COVID thing will be a memory by then, or almost, and we can all have a little fun again.
Vegas is the place to do it, baby.
Before we get into this one too deep, I must say that since we started the Countdown to Vegas segment, I have had Bob's name wrong the entire time.
I absolutely love this. Having killed off, what's his name, Mark Preschetti, I am glad that now I'm not the only one to do this to somebody.
Bob's last name is not Pravado. His name is Lomasaro, and my name is Mud.
He was very, very generous and very had a great sense of humor about that.
Well, my apology, Bob. So let's get on to it. Bob and Joe Portia and their band of scale model missionaries have been traveling the region at large, proselytizing the virtues of supporting the IPMS National Convention, Dave.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
They've been hitting up hobby shops in a wide radius of Las Vegas to garner support and disseminate information for the show, trying to get everybody going there. And there's several large population centers within a modest or reasonable drive of Las Vegas, Los Angeles being the primary one.
Yeah.
There's some businesses they would like to thank for their cooperation thus far. Their most recent trip was to California. So all these are in California. They'd like to recognize the Rare Plane Detective in Cathedral City, Hobby Town in Corona, Military Hobbies in Orange, Brookhurst Hobbies in Buena Park, and Pegasus Hobbies in Montclair. And again, all these are in California. There's a couple of those in there that are some really old businesses. Rare Plane Detective and Brookhurst Hobbies have been around for a long, long time.
I have been to several of those, including Rare Plane Detective and Brookhurst.
Now, a prior trip They went to Andy's Hobby headquarters and the Hobby Bench in the greater Phoenix, Arizona area, and Hobby Depot in Tempe. And they also mentioned that Hobbytown USA in both Fresno and Modesto, California, are also displaying posters and flyers. So they would like to thank all those hobby shops for their support for the IPMS National Convention, because there's going to be a lot of people coming from both those locations to the show.
There's going to be lots of people coming from everywhere to this show. I mean, I cannot tell you the buildup of anticipation that I'm getting from people I interact with. So Vegas is a great choice.
Their future trips include San Diego next, and then Western Los Angeles. So I'll be curious to see what shops come out of those two groups. But they've been driving around all over the Southwest United States, listening to podcasts and handing out flyers. So good on them.
Well, hopefully we can provide them a little content to get them along their way.
Let's hope so.
So, Mike, I almost don't have to ask for the purposes of anybody who regularly goes to our Facebook page, but what's been going on your bench?
A lot has been going on my bench. My little nostalgia build, my Airfix 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun and Morris 4x6 or 6x4 tractor are nearly complete. Man, the finish line is in sight.
They look great.
I tell you, all the weathering is done, and I am so pleased with the way it came out. That one picture I posted of the two together, I almost don't believe it's my model, to be honest.
Yeah.
That really was looking like I wanted and hoped it would look. And I think I've managed to get a lot out of that old kit. Now, it's got some fidelity of scale problems, but, a nice paint job goes a long way, and a clean build and a nice paint job. I think my goal was to finish that more or less out of the box and try to get the model I wanted to build when I was 12. And I think I've succeeded.
Absolutely. It looks fantastic. So is that the only thing you've been working on?
No, but before we get away from that one, I kind of had to back away from the Morris a little bit because I was trying to get the windshield glass done. And my initial plan of individual glass for the left and right side of the windscreen kind of fell on the sword. So I had to come up with a plan B. And then I got into plan B, and plan B involves printing some templates on the printer upstairs, and we ran out of ink. And I started getting frustrated. So I kind of shelved that for a little bit, but I got printer ink again. And I'm ready to hit that again this weekend. So man, I'm thinking this weekend that model's going to get done.
Oh, can't wait. But you make a good point there, though. When you get frustrated, sometimes you just have to walk away. Not to quote Top Gun, but you don't want to push a bad position. And sometimes, this happens to me particularly with airbrushing sometimes. I'm doing everything exactly like I've done before, and the airbrush just isn't performing. And it's just not your day. Walk away from it, go do something else, rather than ruin the project you're working on.
Well, you asked what else I was working on. The
Yes.
E16 Paul has actually moved forward again. I've mated the fuselage halves together, and I'm working on the primary seam for the entire build, really, to be honest. This is kind of an old school cockpit assembly. Everything's trapped between the two halves. There's no module. There's no cockpit subassembly. So the first thing I did was get the instrument panel and the radio deck for the rear seat into position. I glued those to one side of the fuselage and then got the halves together temporarily and let those set up. Being a Japanese aircraft, this thing has the typical really fat wing root on it, like a lot of their planes had, which allows the cockpit floor to be inserted after the fact. So I can work on this seam until I'm happy with it, and then slip the cockpit floor in with the seats and the control stick in, and be good to go after that. Now, each step now is a learning experience or a relearning experience. Fuselage assembly and canopy work and all that's coming next. So baby steps.
Well, I'm glad to see it moving forward, because 72nd scale is God's one true scale.
Well, that's what you always say. So what have you been working on?
Well, as a matter of fact, I have 4 active projects. The M30 is almost ready to paint. I just have to finish assembling the trails. Those are coming along, but again, like a lot of things with this kit, Trumpeter has their instructions are not exactly clear, and their build order is not exactly the best. I will have a lot to say when this kit is done about Trumpeter, their instructions, and their build order. But as soon as I get the trails done, I've already got the wheels painted. As soon as I get the trails done, the main assemblies of the gun will be painted, and then it's off to night shift land. I'm gonna go back through all his videos time and again, and try and pick up some of the techniques he's using to paint and weather the models, because I really like what he does. Speaking of night shift, the Bibber, after sitting for several months, basically in limbo because I was too much of a coward to move forward on it, I bit the bullet and started to do chipping. Again, I went to the night shift video and watched a couple of his videos on chipping, and he's actually got a couple of them on doing it in 72nd scale. Some of the chipping I did, I like. Some of the chipping I did not like because I got way too sloppy. It is amazing how precise he is in his videos, and after looking at what I did, I realized I was way too sloppy, so I took probably 3/4 of the chipping back off the model, and now I am starting the second pass at it. But this is a learning model. The whole point of this thing was to do stuff I haven't done before. I miscredited last episode a comment. I credited John Vitkus, but it's actually Tim Nelson out in Seattle, who said, a lot of people are waiting to build a certain model till they get better. And what's your plan for getting better? The whole point of this Bibber is to get better. So even though I had to do a little negative modeling in taking that chipping off, I don't feel as bad about it as I might have. The Mosquito is moving along. This is the group build that I got sucked into that I am hoping does not turn into a Shelf of Doom project. But so far, I'm really enthused about it. I managed to figure out exactly what aircraft I'm going to build. I did a blog post on it. If anybody visits my blog, they'll see there's a 105 Squadron aircraft that participated in a raid on the Gestapo headquarters in Oslo. And it was the first public acknowledgement of the existence of the Mosquito by the British press was after that raid. And so with the help of some guys at 72nd Scale Forum, I got a lot of good information and decided what I was going to build. My bench is moving along, but I keep hopping back and forth between projects. The only problem of doing that, as opposed to what you've been doing by focusing on the Bofors, is that while I'm making a lot of progress, it's not as dramatic and visible as the project on your Bofors. So I'm hoping that in the next 2 weeks before the next episode, I'll have some real dramatic progress to show.
Well, back to the Bibber. What did you do the chipping with that's allowing you to take it off?
Okay, I did not do it the way Night Shift did it because I painted the model with enamels rather than acrylics. The 2 months that I sat there looking at the model and being too much of a coward to move forward on it, I did contemplate what I was going to do. I had two choices. I could either do what Night Shift does and use acrylics, but then I would have to match the paint to the enamel paint I was already using, or I could use enamel paint. And I ultimately decided to use enamel paint. So what I did to the Bibber was I gave it a coat of Future, which toned down the airbrush contrast that I had put on the model before, and also provided a barrier that I could then put the enamel chipping over. And because I had put down that acrylic barrier with the Future, the clear gloss acrylic, I was able to, when I decided there were areas I didn't like, take a little denatured alcohol on a Q-tip, a pointed Q-tip, dip it, roll the Q-tip on my jeans so that it wasn't quite as soaked with denatured alcohol, and then just rub it back and forth across the enamel paint. The enamel paint came off without affecting the acrylic Future undercoat. So I was able to pull almost all of it back off.
Yeah, I was curious because the night shift videos are always using acrylics for chipping, and there's no taking those off.
I know. This is the one advantage to this. Now, there are disadvantages to it. I think the acrylics are much more forgiving in some respects and much easier to control, because I'm pretty sure that part of my problem was, well, I know part of my problem was that I had my chipping mixture a little too thin, and that caused it to spread out on me more than I had intended it to. Made the whole, for 70-second scale, as Night Shift points out, these chips need to be tiny. I realized after I was done with the first half of the chipping that I did, I actually was pretty pleased with. But I think I over-thinned the chipping paint that I was using in the second half, and it spread too much on me. It made it too big. It made it diffuse. It didn't make it tight. So I didn't like it. This is a learning experience. I sacked up and said, you know what? Instead of just ignoring it, let's go back and learn some. And you know what? If I mess it up, I mess it up. But I'm learning. I'm trying something new. So I kind of feel good about that, I will admit. Oh, one last question. How's that Zis 2 coming?
It's not.
I like poking you with that one on that one, because I really do want to see that one finish.
Well, I do too, but I gotta clear the bench.
I hear you.
It's gonna be my encore for my current projects.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of projects, what have you seen out there that's new, that either inspired you or uninspired you, as the case may be?
We'll go back and forth as usual here, but my biggest fave for this episode is Mini Art's Austin Armored Car. It's a World War I armored car with the twin turret barrels on the sides and poking out the top. Really, really neat. I'm starting to get really tempted by some of these because they just have so much weathering potential. This one may be the one I actually buy. This one is a 1918 Western Front kind of thing, so it's kind of the most interesting to me anyway, part of First World War theater. Just a really neat looking model. So I look forward to maybe buying this one actually.
I saw that one and I thought that was way cool for a couple of reasons. One, I love armored cars, and two, on YouTube there's a series that I think maybe British Path put out called the Great War, and it is the World War I week by week, and they did this from like 2016 or 2014 to 2018. They did it on the anniversary, and I've been going through the YouTube episodes, and it's gotten me more and more interested in World War I. So armored car, World War I, way cool. Which leads me to my first fave of the episode, which is Das Werk has announced a 70-second scale World War I U-boat, a U-9 U-boat, and this hits all the pleasure centers. One, I love subs, and particularly 70-second scale subs. I've got a bunch of the kits. Now, the only two World War I 70-second scale, the only 70-second scale subs I have built are the Bibber, and I did a Japanese suicide torpedo, one-man suicide torpedo, the Kaiten. So the subs I've built so far are much smaller than the ones I have in kit form. But I really want to build them. I think that 72nd scale subs are really cool, and World War One subs, German World War One subs, almost have a steampunk quality to them. And I this one, as soon as I saw the announcement, this one sent the tingles all up and down the spine. So that's almost a sure buy as soon as it comes out.
Well, I may be tempted as well. That I was looking at the stats on it. It's like 800 and change millimeters long, so
Yeah,
it's not terribly big,
right.
really. It's not.
No, not
Uh,
not compared to a World War II U-boat.
you saw it. I sent you the link to the CAD, and it's
Yeah,
oh man,
yeah, I know, baby.
and they've got a book to go with it.
Yeah,
Did you see that?
yes. I mean, it hits every pleasure center there is in my model. It's as if Das Work went into my brain at night and said, exactly what could we release that would hit all of David's modeling pleasure centers, and that was it. And hey, maybe we'll have to have a U9 challenge build.
We might have to. We may both end up
Yeah,
with one of those. I got a feeling.
absolutely.
My next one is from a company called FC Model Trends. And this is more of a general kind of recognition. This is a company who's making a lot of 3D printed upgrades for armor models, maybe other stuff, but that's where I've been getting it from. And for me, that's kind of a big thing because 3D printed, I have to admit, a lot of the stuff I've seen, it's just being the kind of old school modeler I tend to be. It's to some degree, it's like, man, is this a cop out? Is this too easy? But then I fall back on, you got to learn to use the CAD to draw this stuff. So there's a lot to learn there. So that's kind of not really fair. But anyway, I've kind of always had those thoughts first when seeing something, but they're making a lot of detail bits for armor kits, and they finally have my attention because they've got some bits for World War II Soviet armor. They've got a set that's all the handles and grab irons and things for the various equipment on a Soviet tank, all the Pioneer equipment, tool clasps, and that kind of thing. And
Yeah,
they've also are 3D printing intake grills because a lot of these tanks, actually the mesh is woven, right?
yeah.
And you can't get that with a photo etched engine mesh. So I'm really curious what these look like because they've got one for like the T40 light tank, and they've got one for the two intake meshes on a IS2, and they've got one for T34 as well. So I'm really curious what these look like. So I got a feeling I'm gonna vote with my wallet, see what this is all about.
I see an order in your future.
I'm sure you do. Got another one?
Yes, I do. The next one is in 72nd scale again. IBG, company out of, I think, the Ukraine.
Poland.
You're right. IBG is Poland. I apologize. IBG, a company out of Poland, has done a lot of armored kits, both armor and soft skins. And they recently announced a Bedford QL refueler. This is the classic British Bedford truck with the refueler tank on the back that was used at RAF bases throughout middle and later World War II. It is a piece of equipment that I don't think anybody else has modeled previously. It really would go a long way for anybody who wants to do an RAF base, put some field equipment with it. So it was really nice to see it announced. They had done a lot of the other Bedford trucks, and so it was almost inevitable that they were going to do this. But I'm glad we finally seen it announced and can't wait for it because it'll be a great addition. How about you?
Well, I've got another favorite, Alpine Miniatures.
Oh, I love those folks.
Yeah, a couple of new Soviet tank crew figures. Alpine Miniatures is operated by now this is Korean, so it's a little tough. Tasong Hamza.
Yeah.
I think is close to the right pronunciation. A very skilled sculptor, and these figures are really nice and they're really, really well researched. He's done a great job. Now, I collaborated with him on his 16th scale Soviet tank crewman, actually. I probably ought to contact him again and give him a little credit on these. These are really, really nice figures, and I'm going to buy both of these, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You got another fave?
Well, I've got one more that I was going to mention only because of you. A company, I think they're out of Germany, Hauler, has announced a release of a photo etch detail and conversion set in 72nd scale for the BM-1316 multiple launch rocket system.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Can you imagine that in 72nd scale photo etch?
Yeah, I could imagine that. I think I actually saw that, but I didn't look too hard because I knew where I was going to go.
Yeah, there. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of photo etch, or actually a couple of pieces of photo etch, but wow. It's made for the ICM 72nd scale truck kit of the BM-13-16. There are people who build that dozer with all that photo etch armor around it, and I admire those people. I admire anybody who attempts this thing because, man, that's a lot of photo etch.
And it's small, too.
Yeah, small photo etch. So how about you?
We're into yawn territory now.
Uh-oh, I don't have a yawn, so make this one count.
Well, I could go with Hobby Boss, but I won't.
Those poor people.
Well, they had a World War II Soviet release, but it was something somebody else already beat to death, so it wasn't a BT5. So I guess I did go there with Hobby Boss, but that's all I'm going to say. My yawn is actually Ammo by Mega Menez.
Uh-oh, what's this about?
They have a new line of dry brush paint.
You're gonna have to explain to me what dry brush paint is.
I guess it's really, really thick paint. I really don't know, but that's neither here nor there. In this war to stay relevant between this company and one other in particular, and to a lesser degree, maybe Vallejo, this has come full circle now. By the current players in this field, they have all panned dry brushing as a technique as either unrealistic at best or at worst lazy. And I really find this release ironic, if not a bit humorous, that now the panners are marketing a product to do a technique that they didn't like 7, 8, 10 years ago. I just think it's funny. They may be a great product. And if you like dry brushing, these may be the bomb, man. This may be the best thing since sliced bread. But I just in the context of how this all came about in my modeling journey and the reason why I got out of the hobby, because all these techniques changed and what I was doing was passe. I just think this is really, really funny.
That is, well, in theory, my understanding of it is basically any paint can be dry brush paint. It's a technique, not a paint formulation. Now, admittedly, some paint is easier to dry brush than others, but still, yeah, it is high humor that the folks who panned everybody who was doing dry brushing at the time would come back around to releasing dry brush paint. You kind of wonder if maybe they've run out of stuff to do.
I don't know. Now these companies have good products. We both use them. Everybody listening uses them to some degree, and I don't understand this one. I just thought it was funny.
It is. I missed that one, and you're right. It is funny.
Well, if we're done with that, our special segment tonight is a little lighthearted. Breaking your wallet and your will. We've got a little commentary here about the ups and downs of the secondary kit market, hobby market, if you will. And this again comes from an email we got from our listener, Stephen Lee. And it was prompted by a statement we made on the show a while back about a seller on eBay who was parting out kits and selling single sprues on eBay.
Which is weird to me.
Well, I guess he thought it was too. I got his email kind of parsed out here to make this a little easier. For parted out kits, Steven says, I've always chalked up the sale of separate sprues to inept marketing by well-intended non-modeler pickers and fortune seekers who think all hobby stuff is more or less the same, very valuable, and that they're buyers for everything, including overpriced individual kit sprues. Now, you got any thoughts on this? Because you've thought we needed to expound on this a little bit in the past. What do you think about that?
I was unfamiliar with this phenomenon until you and he raised this. I would never have imagined that this market even exists. I would never have thought that there's enough of a market to sustain a market, but apparently there is, because there's more than one person doing this on eBay. It seems to me like in many cases, you can go out, if it's an older kit, you can go out and buy the whole kit for reasonably close to what you can buy for the one sprue that they're offering. So I find it fascinating from an economics point of view. And each individual sprue, there can't be that much margin on it. So when you take into account what eBay takes as a cut, what PayPal takes as a cut, I'm amazed that there is enough profit left after all of the expense to make this worthwhile, especially when you consider the time and effort required to list all of these and then to mail them out and all of that stuff. It's fascinating to me from an economics standpoint. How about you?
Well, I think you're probably coming from an aircraft-centric kind of viewpoint.
Maybe. That may be.
For an armor modeler, this makes a little bit more sense. And I've actually bought something from the primary seller that's doing this on eBay. And the reason I did is I've got all these projects, and you probably do too, and most modelers do, that you got in the back of your head, and you're kind of thinking about them as the days, weeks, months, and even years sometimes progresses. Well, one of mine is there's a particular early Hetzer I want to do. It's got a scheme on it I liked, and it's a pretty unique vehicle. It gets overdone, I think, in the modeling community a lot, but it's a popular subject. But anyway, the early Hetzer had I can't remember if it had more bolts on the road wheels or less, but it's one or the other. So they're different. Right. Than some of the other kits. Well, Academy released an early Hetzer in plastic. I want to base my model off the Tamiya Hetzer. So because a Hetzer doesn't have a lot of interchangeable parts, there's not like a T-34 where there's like all these factory versions, rebuilds, and you can use a lot of the parts from the kit on other projects. The Hetzer's a little more limited. So I just bought the wheels. I bought enough wheels to do a model from this guy, early Hetzer wheels from the Academy kit, to go with in my project accumulation for this future Hetzer project. Now another one I think is an interesting possibility is Tamiya has released both the Hummel 150 millimeter self-propelled gun and the Nashorn 88 millimeter anti-tank versions. It's a very similar vehicle. They're not identical, but they're pretty close. Right. The Hummel is the later version with the double raised glacis plate for both the radio operator and the driver. For my particular preference, I don't like that version. I like the one that has the flush hatch for the radio operator and then the kind of bulbous protrusion for the driver. So if you wanted to do that version, you can go to this guy's eBay store and buy just the sprue that has the Nashorn upper hull plate. And you're going to have to do a little bit of modification to it, but it gets you 90% of the way there, and just swap the two parts. Now with Tamiya, you can order those parts I don't know how the prices compare, but to me, USA is pretty good about it. If you need dragon parts or something like that, it gets a lot harder because, I'm not going to say much about it, but go Google in the forums their sprue replacement and customer service protocol, and you're going to find out that's not going to go very well.
I do think that you're right. There's a difference between aircraft and armor in that armor, because road wheels are such an integral part of armor modeling, and because there is a lot, I think I did okay, again, I'm not an armor guy, but I like the KV1. And I once did some research, and I think I came up with at least 5 different versions of the KV1 road wheels or road wheel combinations from photographs and all. So I can see road wheels being a particularly desirable single sprue item as opposed to something in an aircraft that's interchangeable between versions, because in general, that's not the case with aircraft.
Now, if it was a T-34 subject, I would just buy the entire Dragon kit because there's going to be so much in any of those kits that could be used later down the road. That'd be my take, but I can see this has a limited value that I can appreciate, but they're not inexpensive for what you're getting. So I don't know, maybe not for everybody.
It's like I said, the economics of it fascinate me, and I wonder if it actually can be done at a volume that really makes it worth somebody's time to do it.
The next item in this kind of subject is the bagged kit. Now, Steven says, I'm also entertained by something that seems to be related to the parted out kits for sale online, which is the bag kit, something you have mentioned on air previously. I've ended up with a few, both used and some new, notably from Eastern European manufacturers. Order a kit directly from Ace in the Ukraine, and you will receive a fat envelope with sprues, decals, and instructions, and a flattened box requiring bring your own staples. Finmill Mods of Finland doesn't even have a box or instructions, just sprues and decals, but the price is right, and of course, unique subjects. Space and weight constraints are driving this trend, but I didn't realize I missed the box as much as I did until it was gone.
Well, I want to mention a take on this. And it started with Edouard, and now several Eastern European manufacturers are doing this in the aircraft realm. They call them overtrees, where instead of buying the entire kit with instructions, decals, and the kit, they will sell you just the kit. No instructions, no decals, no box. And people like Arma and Edouard will offer these things as a package as well as individually. They'll sell you a complete kit with the box and the instructions and all, and then they'll give you a package deal where they'll sell you just the overtrees for another kit of the same model. Since I don't use kit decals a lot, almost all of the decals I ever put on are aftermarket decals. This has been a wonderful thing because, again, the price point that they sell overtrees at compared to the complete kit is fantastic if you want to build more than one model of the same aircraft. And I think that's probably a modern extension of the, secondary market bagged kit thing.
I've bought a few bag kits just because the price was right, and I don't need the box necessarily.
Right.
I've mentioned it before. A lot of this comes about because people run out of space and they ditch the boxes and they put them in bags and put them in filing cabinets, etc. And that's what happens after they sell their stash. It's all bagged. There's no boxes. Now, another thing you might remember about 10, 12 years ago, we were buying a lot of Eastern European kits out of Australia, actually.
Yes.
And these were coming compressed down to the sprue bags with all the boxes compressed, unfolded at the bottom of the shipping box.
Yep.
So certainly there's the space savings, because a lot of times postage isn't just weight, it's box dimensions.
Exactly. And I don't mind. I remember those orders. Scott King would coordinate them. Skippy would coordinate them for our club, and we'd end up placing a $400 or $500 order out of Australia, and it would show up at his house and then get distributed among the club members. And yeah, all the sprues came packed, and then the boxes were all empty and folded. You're right. It is not just weight, it is dimension. Particularly the U.S. Postal Service shipping rates are insane now. And if you can fit something into a bubble wrapped envelope as opposed to shipping it in a box, it can make a significant difference in shipping costs. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Again, especially as somebody who doesn't use kit decals often. A bagged kit for me meets my needs for a lot of things, especially like I said, the overtrees that are releases of new kits anyway.
Well, next on Steven's list is condition. We're buying secondary market. I mean, not a primary retail outlet, either not a brick and mortar hobby shop or a dedicated website like Sprue Brothers or something like that. Now there's established businesses selling on eBay or Amazon. I still, for the sake of this discussion, those are still secondary, because it's hard to differentiate, really.
Sure.
So eBay and Amazon, the various classifieds on the forums, there's Facebook pages, Facebook Marketplace, clubs and shows and swap meet, vendor deals. I buy a lot from all those venues, to be honest.
Well, I will tell you that I like going, again, another reason that this COVID thing sucks out loud and we don't get to go to shows is that I do a lot of purchasing of items from vendors at shows who are not primary marketers of new kits, like an extension of a brick and mortar, but are, they buy up collections and then sell them off and stuff like that. And the advantage to doing it at a show, in addition to, hey, I get to go to a show and hang out with all my modeling friends, is that you can actually see what you're getting and you don't have to worry about any postage cost. And again, with postage going up and up, that can be a significant savings. I can pick a model up. I can pick a Tamiya 72nd scale 0 up all day long at contests for $12 a pop. It's hard to do that online in any form, just simply because the postage cost and other associated costs drive the price up to the point where it's not really the same great deal that it is there at the show.
Now, one place I've been buying not a lot, but a fair amount is the Facebook group Scale Model Graveyard.
Yeah.
And I've got a bag kit from them. I've probably bought a half a dozen kits from them this year. That venue. We actually talked about this in our T34 Facebook page episode, but I actually edited it out because I wanted to present it in its proper context, and I think this is probably it. That T34 group, they had the interest group, in which is all technical information, and then they spun the modeling group out separately to kind of separate. It's related, but a separate kind of discussion. So they didn't have a lot of modeling discussion for this other group who was primarily interested in the technical aspects of the discussion. Scale Model Graveyard, I think, might benefit from that philosophy, because they have a system where at a certain time of day, on a certain day of the week, it converts from a direct sales site to an auction site. Personally, I find it confusing. And
I agree.
I have to think for the moderators of that group, that creates a lot of work to police that stuff and to make sure folks are doing what they're supposed to do. I would recommend that they look into creating a sister site that is all auctions all the time, and the other one is all direct sale all the time.
Yeah, that would be fair.
My opinion is that would be an improvement for what they got going on.
I completely agree. In fact, I've only bought one thing off of Scale Model Graveyard, and I've only sold one thing off Scale Model Graveyard. And I'll be honest with you, my hesitancy to get into it deeper is the confusion that is caused by the aspect where it switches back and forth. If they had two separate Facebook groups, one all auction all the time and one direct sale all the time, I'm pretty sure I would be on there a whole lot more.
So if anyone from Scale Model Graveyard listens to this podcast and you like our idea or you don't like it, contact us. I'd be curious as to why it's run the way it is. Not that it's right or wrong. It's your guys' Facebook group. Do it how you want. Obviously, I'm using it. I've bought several kits there, and I like it in general. But I think that might be an improvement you should consider. Going on, Stephen talks about condition of items bought through the secondary market. He says portrayal of condition of kits for sale online is alternately entertaining and exacerbating. Some sellers are extremely generous with the description of shelfware. More accurate would be compressed over decades by the pressure of a dozen kit boxes stacked on top of it. As a side, he says he used to laugh at From a Smoke-Free Home.
Yeah.
Ha ha, it's a model. Why would that matter? Then he acquired several kits that were quite smoky.
That brings to mind when Mac passed away, the sale of his kits, because Mac was a big smoker, and boy, does that make a huge difference. I bought several of things from his estate, and I got a nicotine contact high just touching those models.
Have you ever had a condition nightmare?
No, I was actually about to say that I guess I have gotten incredibly lucky. I have never been dissatisfied with the condition of a model I received in contrast to how it had been advertised. But then again, I'm not, I just want the dang model. So I'm not overly picky about box condition now, again, Smoke-Free Home does indeed make a difference. I'm here to tell you. But even that, if I'm buying it, I want the kit. And as long as I get the plastic, and as long as it's not warped or broken, I'm generally a pretty happy guy. So I've been lucky. How about you?
Well, the worst one I've gotten was actually one of the most recent ones. It was that Hasegawa Seagull kit I bought. The kit's fine. The decals I won't use, so they didn't matter.
Right.
The box had some old mildew on it and was rather crushed, but you could see it in the photographs. I didn't care. I was looking for the cheapest one I could get.
A true modeler. Yep.
But I understand his point, especially if you get a bad surprise. That's never fun.
No, it isn't.
You got anything else on this topic?
Well, no, not particularly, other than the fact that, like I said, I look back on all of my transactions in the secondary and tertiary model markets. I'm pretty pleased by them. Again, I can't think of an instance where I got a kit that I had purchased and was in any way disappointed. 2008, 2009, I liquidated a small portion of the giant stash of death that I own. A lot of it on eBay, but a lot of it direct sale on forums. And as far as the transactions go from the seller side, I hate to sound like Pollyanna, but modelers are, as a group, a pretty good straight up bunch of guys. And anytime there was even the slightest miscommunication, misunderstanding, shipment problem, whatever, I've never had anything but great interactions. Maybe I've just gotten lucky. So, but I do think that I am glad the secondary and tertiary markets are out there, because I think it is a great way for modelers, particularly if you don't have a local hobby shop or something like that to support. It is a great way to build a stash. Not that building a stash is the greatest idea ever, but we all do it. So, come on. But I think it's a great way for you to pick up kits that have been out a while that are still modern, great kits that you want. Or let's say you want to do a nostalgia build of an Airfix 76 scale kit that you built as a kid when you were 12. The secondary market is a great place to pick up that kit for very little money, as opposed to $20, which is what the modern version of the kit from the retailer will cost you.
Well, I agree that what you're saying about the modelers in general, all my transactions have been pleasant for the most part. Now, in my other hobby, I do a lot of business with folks who I don't know, and I'm kind of used to it. And I guess I may even have a knack for feeling out people who are maybe a little nefarious, sketchy. Generally in modeling, that's not been the case, and everybody likes finding a deal too. That's always fun.
Well, and that is the other thing that, okay, in your other hobby, Militaria, you are not dealing with items that are of low value. Whereas even in modeling, you're not talking about hundreds and thousands of dollars like you could be for a Militaria item. That I think takes a lot of the motive of unsavory people to dance around in the secondary model market.
Yeah.
There's just not enough money to be made in it.
You'd be a low grade con to pull something off in this genre.
Yeah. Woohoo! I con somebody out of $20. It just not, yeah. And that is a great advantage to those of us who participate in the hobby. I don't think you have to worry about it as much.
Well, if the listeners out there have a positive or negative experience buying in the secondary kit market they'd like to share, send us a Facebook message or an email, and we'll talk about it. But interesting topic. Thanks, Stephen. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And all you listeners out there, if you have ideas for topics, please email them. We love the interaction. And you never know, your email may end up getting turned into one of our special segments. So please continue to do so. So, Mike, looks like we're coming to the end. Do you have a shout out for the month?
I do have a shout out. I want to go back and talk about Mr. Alex Restrepo a little bit.
Oh, God.
Alex is a longtime MMCL member. That's the Military Modelers Club of Louisville. Alex recently retired from a successful career with the United Parcel Service, or UPS. Listeners might not know, but UPS has a very large hub and maintenance operation in Louisville, Kentucky, where Alex has made his way up through the food chain over the years, working for UPS. He got sent away to Philadelphia for a while, I think that's right.
Yeah, he's ended up traveling for them because of what he does and what he did. He went over to Germany. He went to the Philippines. He went to Philadelphia. He's been a number of places.
But in the last few years, he relocated back to the Louisville area and has retired here. And I want to say congratulations, Alex, to your retirement. Dave and I, along with the MMCL, are glad you're here with us in Louisville and not Philly or wherever else. And work's no longer an excuse, man. So let's see some models.
Absolutely. In that regard, not to give Alex the big head, but Alex is, and this is an example of, in my opinion, modelers in general, but Alex is the finest example of the species. Modelers are in general great guys, and if you wanted to find an example of that you put in the dictionary to illustrate it, you would not do better than Alex Restrepo. He really is just one of the nicest human beings on the planet. And, I would love to give him 40 kinds of crap about just to do so. But no, I can't do it. He's a great addition to our club, and we're lucky to have him.
And retiring young.
Yes.
Kudos to that, man. I'm envious of that, to be honest. You got a shout out?
Yes, I do. I've mentioned from time to time on the podcast Scott King, or as we call him, Skippy, one of the longtime members of MMCL. And Skippy's a personal friend, one of my modeling buddies. He occasionally comes over to my house, and we hang out in my basement and sip scotch and
don't model.
Okay, when we're sipping scotch, not as much as maybe we should be, but still, it's an enjoyable time. Scott's dad passed away this past week, and his dad lived right behind him, and so I got to know Scott's dad as well as knowing Skippy. And he was a modeler in his own right, although not plastic models. He was a Marine Corps veteran. I believe he was in the Korean War era. And he was a wire flight and radio control model guy. And he had one of the finest collections of old gas-powered flying model aircraft engines, including engines that date back into the 20s, 30s, and 40s that I've ever seen. And it was just fascinating to see. And after he retired, he would go with Scott and I to model contests, and got to spend time with him, got to listen to his stories, and just want to, first of all, tell Skippy that, our heart goes out to him. But also to point out to everybody, take a little bit of time and spend some time with the generation older than us. Because two things. One, we're going to be there sooner than you think. And two, there's a lot of neat stuff you can learn from those people. So take advantage of that before that disappears. Skippy, just thinking about you, and sorry you're going through what you're going through, but good to have gotten to know your dad. Proud to say that I had that opportunity.
All right, Dave. Well, we're coming to the end here.
Yeah. This episode went a little longer than I thought it would.
Well, not too bad. But anyway, as we always say, so many kits.
So little time. See you later, Mike.
Take it easy, man. We'll catch you next time.